What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so I brought back the theme song because I got a couple of comments from people saying they didn't like the new one. Just got to try things out. But anyway, this is something I want to talk about because I'm getting a little bit irritated. I've been saying this before. I'm irritated by these conspiracy theories. Okay, and I'm not trying to make it all on one side because the Democrats are full of it too. Because it's interesting how they were calling the Republicans or Trump supporters conspiracy theorists and kooks and liars for saying that the election was rigged in 2020. Then you got Democrats doing the same thing with this election. And look, are there some isolated incidences where they may be catching some poll workers doing some crazy things? Yeah, I believe that's true. But there being some concerted networked conspiracy or networking conspiracy trying to steal the election, I don't think that's what's going on at all. I think what's going on is that you still have many outstanding House races. And yes, this election is still going on. The presidential election has been determined, although the final popular vote outcome is still yet to be decided. But that election is done, although they're still counting votes, just to see what the final tally will be. But there's still outgoing House races that still need to be determined to see exactly what type of majority the House will have, I mean, Republicans will have in the House. And there's a Senate race that still technically hasn't been called in Pennsylvania, involving Bob Casey and whoever the hell the Republican is he running against. But that race has gotten a lot closer. There's been some outstanding House races that were being led by Republicans that have flipped to Democrats, and there's been some races that were led by the Democrats where it's flipped Republican, but a little bit more for the Democrats than Republicans. And Republicans are saying it's still in their race, it's still in the election. Look, this is what's going on. Let me talk about California for a second. Now, I mentioned this before in the video I just did. California has 22 million registered voters. That's a lot of votes to be counted. And what's holding up the count for the most part is mail-in ballots. Mail-in ballots, California is one of these states that has mail-in ballots. If I'm not mistaken, if you do the math, California still has maybe upwards around 2 million votes that still need to be processed. 1.5 to 2 million more votes that still need to be processed. Mail-in ballots are different from your typical voting booth ballots. The voting booth ballots, you press the person or press the candidates, you select the candidate you want to vote for, you register to vote, and the machine tabulates it. It's so much faster. Kudos to Florida because, man, that's amazing how they're able to count, 11 million votes or so, almost 11 million votes in Florida in 90 minutes. That's efficiency. That's what every state should have. I think it only took 90 minutes to what? I know they had pretty much tabulated all the votes in Florida within 2 days. Most of those votes were counted within 90 minutes. Amazing speed. But California is one of these states where they have mail-in ballots. And mail-in ballots, you have to first sort them. It's manual. You have to sort them. You have to authenticate it. Then you have to process it. It takes longer. Remember, I said mail-in ballots. So some of these votes still hadn't been mailed in. I think there's like a 30-day. I think there's a 30-day period from the time that the vote, from election day until the vote is processed by these poll workers. And so we may not get a final tally from California until maybe the second week of December. But this is normal. It's just that um, in prior years, people didn't really care about some of these outstanding races. And, it wasn't until the Trump era that people kept making these accusations that the election was rigged or stolen. Not seriously. Not, Trump is the president, so he's giving legitimacy to these types of claims. You know what I'm saying? Um, there are races that are really, really, really tight. You know what I'm saying? So people are real sensitive about this stuff. Another thing that's holding up the race, is I think it's called provisional ballots. Basically, provisional ballots. Many states offer this, and I think it's stupid because I think it's real lazy, in my opinion. Is that some of these states, California is one of them, allow people to come to the poll on the day of election, the election day. They're able to go to the polling place and register to vote then. My state doesn't have that option. Virginia, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think we have that option. But California and some other states do. So a person can come there and register to vote on that day. And the vote will be tallied, but it'll be sorted separately. Because you know why? Those votes have to be authenticated. They have to make sure that that person's a citizen, that they're voting in the right precinct, and all these types of things, right? So those votes are going to take longer. Now, me personally, if I'm a Trump supporter, I'm side-eyed in that provisional ballot because, same day voting. I wonder who they have doing that. I wonder who's doing that. I don't want to say too much, because I don't want to seem like I'm just saying. It's a little bit, I think to me that's lazy, and it's a little bit, you can make an argument that if you're being suspicious or conspiratorial, you can make an argument, sounds like they're rounding up some people, rounding up some people to pack the polls and, whatever. But yeah, that's pretty much what the process is, man. And that's what's holding up the final vote. But with some of these House races so close, we may not know who won some of these races until, over maybe going into December, Now, talking about California for a second, have there ever been a presidential election where mail-in and provisional ballots have altered the winner or changed who the winner of the state was? Yeah. Although it did not help this candidate win the election. In 1960, on election night, or should I say going into the next day, California was declared Democratic for John F. Kennedy, despite that being Richard Nixon's home state. Kennedy was declared the winner. I think California at the time had 32 electoral votes. So he was the winner of, or declared the winner of California's 32 electoral votes. That's why some of the newspapers erroneously gave Kennedy, I think it was 332 electoral votes or something like that. But when the mail-in ballots and provisional ballots came in, and I think it was something like 30,000 of them came in, and they were overwhelmingly for Nixon. That turned the state narrowly to Nixon, and it flipped it from a Democratic to Republican state. But it was also a recount that happened in Hawaii, and that flipped the state from red to blue because Nixon was declared the winner, but then the recount gave it to Kennedy. So, but anyway, That's what's holding up the election. Okay, uh, like I said, California, because of the sheer number of votes, this is why it's taking so long. But there's other states that do it too. I think Pennsylvania has this thing. That's why if you look it up right now, you'll see states like California, Pennsylvania, Arizona. You'll see 90% reported, 92% reported, 95%. Like, what's holding it up? Well, that's part of the reason right there. That's pretty much the main reason, you know. So I just want to put that out there to temper some of this conspiracy stuff. Like, this isn't out of the realm of normalcy. This is what happens every election. It happens every election. They don't really tabulate all the votes until December. This is why I was, irritated when I was seeing all these people jumping the gun saying, "Oh, only 115 million people voted. Only 120 million people voted. Where are all the votes?" They haven't counted all of them. They've counted enough to determine the presidential election. California is so blue, and some of the other states, the amount of votes that have been tabulated is sufficient to name the winner. So even though these votes are going to be tabulated from election day until early December, it's not at a number that's going to alter the race at all. It's not going to do it. Matter of fact, before I end this video, let me see something. Let's see if let's see if I can find something here. All right, so right now, 153 million votes have been counted, with 98% reported. So that's virtually all of them. It's probably like a couple of, maybe like 2 million to be counted. So the final tally is going to be around 155, 56 million votes. So that's just slightly behind 158 million voted in 2020. So, like I said before, this is normal. But there's going to be people that's going to completely ignore what I said in this video and just still going to go with their conspiratorial nonsense because that's what people do. But anyway, that's all I got to say about it.